Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Dranbell Society Tasting Room. I'm Donnie. This is Sean. Today we're going to be exploring actually two of my favorite things, Aberlour Distillery and Cask Strength Scotch. So, yeah, we got the Abunad and the 13.
Yeah. So we're gonna just jump into this. With the two expressions we're gonna look at, as Donnie said, are both cask strength. One of the special editions that we're going to be trying here is the Reserve Collection from Aberlour. So this is their 13-year cask strength. This one's sitting at 60.9% ABV. So pretty high for a Scotch in general. Now, as you can see, we've already tapped this one, and it's just the little snubby bottle here. So unfortunately, there's not as much to go around from the standard 750 ml, but that's okay. So this one, unfortunately, can't purchase in the States. You have to actually order this directly from Aberlour's distillery. I don't think that that's the case in Scotland directly, but for us in the U.S., we did have to place a special order for it. We also have the 21, which we'll probably do at a later time. But we're gonna get these things poured, and we're gonna jump right into this thing.
Excellent.
All right. So, that sound again. Well, this cork is like perfect for that.
Yeah. Aberlour doesn't seem to last long, neither of our households.
No, it really doesn't.
Tend to go pretty quickly.
A little heavy pour today.
Yeah, not bad for a Saturday morning.
We'll start early here. All right, cool.
All right.
So I'm gonna do that there.
I mean, look at that color.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can just see how dark, amber. Oh, it's just gorgeous.
No, it's good. This is, and Donnie said it too. Aberlour for sure. For me, it's up there in some, my top 5 probably distilleries right now, and it shifts not because we dislike other distilleries, but we just find expressions that tend to pique our interest a little bit more. I think that's probably common with most people in most things, not just whiskey in general. But for us, this kind of where this goes, and this is a collective, top, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Almost everyone in the group is like, everything we pour from Aberlour is money.
Yeah, I mean, I think you brought up the great, kind of demonstration on how it looks, because when you look at the Aberlour 12 all the way up to the top, it starts so consistently high, and it just go across the board. They don't have a bad expression. They're full of flavor. And oddly enough, with Aberlour, before I was really into the whiskey piece, I did a blind tasting with 4 premium scotches, and before we were even kind of where I was in love with Aberlour, this came out on top, and I was really surprised because a couple of the other ones I was some big fans of, and so when I text everybody that I was like, this is the winner, and it's like, okay, wow, this is kind of surprising, and I think at that point kind of started our affection for Aberlour.
And that was the 12, right? You said
Aberlour 12.
The 12, yeah, and it's their entry level whiskey, and it's fantastic. So as you see, I mean, probably can see some of the collection we have sitting there.
We have almost all of them.
I think I've got them. I'm trying to. So there are, and I'll give a little bit more history on that. So there are 5 or 6 different expressions right now. So there's 6. There's 2 13s, 2 14s. There might be even more. Now I feel like I'm messing up. Yeah, there's a lot. So they did. They're all cask strength. But I decided to do when I first purchased this bottle was to go from the lowest maturation to the highest maturation, just to see if there's what we can pick between the two. They're all done in sherry. At least these ones are. The ones that I purchased are done in sherry cask, finished in sherry cask. So it's obviously that's gonna bring a ton of flavor out of this thing. But like I said, I mean, if you just read the label on this one, it's a limited release, a rare exceptional whiskeys from Shears Brothers, single malt distilleries, each release bottled at cask strength. So yeah, that was right. They all are cask strength, every single one of them, which is fantastic for us. So, and we've been kind of really like edging out or edging in the cask strength whiskeys to our tasting events. They tend to please almost everyone, even if it's a little hot. You could always just
we'll demonstrate a little bit later too, but our definitely flavor profiles, our tastings are evolving to more of the higher proof. We tend to get a little bit more flavors out of it now that we're exposing ourselves to more options, more expressions, more distilleries. We're just trying to find what we like, and right now the higher proof ones are really kind of bringing the heat, so to speak.
Yeah, so I'll tell you right now. So I mean, we'll jump right into it. Donnie, if you want to pour the Abunad, actually, maybe we'll have that one sit and open while we jump into this one before we start. Really
here's the
getting too deep
Abunad.
Oh man, I can tell you right now off the bat, the nose is just fantastic on this. There's a lot of richness going on here. I'll switch here. Thank you, sir.
Right.
So if you're going to compare just the Abenade to this 13, there's a significant color differential. I don't know if the camera is going to pick it up, but this is your Abenade here, and here's your 13. But even I can see here that they're this has got a deeper color here. Not that means much. I mean obviously even if you do natural coloring, whether you do it or not, there is something though about a nice rich deep colored whiskey. When you pour it, it's like in your head. So for me, when I look at the color, I think just because it's darker, it's going to be better, and that's not necessarily true. It's just you look at the color, and it's associated with a deep, rich, dark and hearty flavor. That's just kind of how I look at it, but it's not always true.
Slight perception, you get a little bit more flavor, and sometimes the mental, the nose, it can kind of play into the flavor profile. So it's always interesting to discover. So
yeah, I agree.
And since these are cast strength, you'll notice we're doing a lot of swirling, a lot of oxygenation here, trying to open these up as much as we can. They do contain a punch.
So now that you said that, and if you nose this right off the bat, there is not a lot of ethanol.
Holy!
It's to be honest with you, it's frightening that this does not punch you in the face right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the finish in the sherry, specifically for this one. I don't know quite what casks are on this one. We'll post some details later for it. But I can tell you right now that you get dark fruits right off the bat from this, just like you would with most sherried whiskeys.
Yeah, the sherry is strong with this one.
Yeah, and it's really strong, and actually it's so strong it's overpowering the ethanol. And I know it's there because I've had this before, so we know the cask strength. It's going to hit you.
Yeah.
But I can tell you right now that if I poured this for you, and you're a whiskey drinker who knows a cask strength whiskey, you probably won't pull that that's a cask strength from the nose. I can tell you right now.
There's no way. You can get in here. Normally when you're doing the nosing, you kind of ease into it. You don't want to get too far into it just because you don't want to get the ethanol burn. But you can get all the way in here. You're not going to have any issues.
And it's for me too. When I smell, it's try to be as delicate as you can, right? You don't want to start sniffing hard because you're going to kill yourself. You're going to kill the olfactory senses up in your nose. But I will say,
you get a little cherry in here too.
Yeah, this has cherry. It has a
faint
Bing cherry too, like a real dark cherry.
Even oddly enough, I don't get these with a lot of guys, but like a faint citrus. It's not bright, but it's
citrus is a tough one because I look at it two ways when we talk about whiskeys. So I either say if you say citrus, I'm going towards lemon and lime, where it's you kind of get that sour.
Yeah.
Or you go the opposite end of the spectrum and you talk orange. I think this is more that. If you're gonna get anything out of this, kind of orange peel maybe.
Yeah.
Where it's light, but
where it's light, you might get like a little green apple maybe.
Yeah. God, there's a lot going on in this nose. It's frightening. This is what's so scary about this whiskey. And again, as you see, we've bottles all.
They just opened this bottle.
Yeah. I think we opened it last week. So, we're not at a neck pour, right? Obviously, everyone can see here. This thing has had some time to oxygenate just enough. Before it starts to go bad, which is not going to happen. But
I can't contain myself. I'm getting into this.
Yeah. Cheers, sir. I'm gonna jump into it because man. Wow. Okay, so there's a lot happening here on the palate. A lot. It is. You definitely can get the cask strength on the taste.
Oh yeah, it
hits you right away. It's the
it
first
spreads
thing.
the heat throughout your mouth. It's not like a hit on your tongue. It just kind of opens up. You get the warmth all over. It's not overpowering, but you know it's there. You can tell. Okay.
So this is sitting there, and I think when you drink cask strength whiskey, whether it's a bourbon or a Scotch, and again, I think Scotch cask strength whiskey is a little harder to find. It's just not as common.
Right.
But one of the things that I get with this is that burn right there when it kind of starts to go down, but it's in a good way. It's not like off-putting in any way. But for me, it helps to coat the flavor throughout the entire taste, all the way from the nose to the swallow.
Helps it linger a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Are you getting it here? I'm only getting it in the mouthfeel right now. Maybe it's the first sip, but
yeah. I think it just depends. Also depends on how you swallowed it. There's a lot of other factors there. But let me say this, and we talked about this last episode. Is this has got a fantastic finish. It's long, it's deep, it's rich. It's sweet but not off-putting sweet, because I'm not a into sweets. I just don't. That's not my cup of tea. I'm definitely more into the savory side of things. Food's different when you try to compare it to whiskey or tasting, but I can tell you, for me, I do love a good sherry cask scotch or bourbon or anything really in general. But
getting a lot of dried fruits on the palate.
Yeah, it's coming through for sure. So we're talking dried dark fruits, maybe plum.
Oh, plum, dates.
Yeah. There's not a lot of spice though, so I mean, I'm not getting any of that, which sometimes you can get from it. I think we compared the Glenfiddich 18 last week, and that's also finished in a sherry cask, but it's got some spice to it. That's that bourbon cask. So
we like to look. There's a difference between like a spice and a heat. Not a lot of spice here. You get a little heat from the alcohol, but definitely not a lot of actual spice.
There's something else going on here though. There's something nutty going on here. Like almonds,
definitely almonds.
Yeah, I mean it's a punch in the. So I don't get the almonds in the nose. I get it in the palate. Right. It's on the back of the palate for me. This the 13 here, and we had talked about this for the sherry cask. Right. A lot of whiskeys that you're going to get, Scotch specifically. They aren't matured completely in sherry cask. They generally will just finish them. And, I think the Glenfiddich, again, as the example, was 15 years in American bourbon and another 3 in a sherry cask. So what makes this one different is that it is matured for the entire 13 years in first fill sherry butts. So this is one of the reasons why we're getting such a dark color and the flavor, 100%. Right. I mean, this is a hard one to pass up.
No, I mean, this needs to be available in the States ASAP.
Yeah, if they don't, this is one that Aberlour, I hope you're listening, or somebody can say something, because this needs to get added to their normal lineup. Yeah, this is a beautiful whiskey, and it's hard, when you're in this this place for a distillery, because they don't really know. I mean, off the top, I mean, they have, let's say 7, 8, 9 expressions that they're going to try. Mm-hmm. Not all of them may be what they wanted. Yeah. Some maybe. So I'm sure there's a little bit of a gamble there. But this was, you won with this one. I'm going to tell you that much. You won. It's great.
And it's fun too. How many 13s do you see? I do not see a lot of age 13. I mean, it's just one of those odd ones, 12, 14, 16, 18, or non-age stated.
I agree.
But yeah, 13 is just kind of an unusual year, and I kind of like it.
So get back to the nose here and the palate. So, again, I think for me, the nose, I'm getting it's almost all just fruit. I don't get any ethanol. I don't get any wood. I'm not getting anything else beside. I mean, it's straight
That's
fruit.
Interesting. For 13 year, no wood at all.
I'm not. I mean, it might be there, but no, I'm trying. And I don't want to, and you'll hear this with most whiskey advocates or people who, are into the world of whiskey, is don't chase flavors in the whiskey unless it's there and you really want to find it, because you're going to spend the whole time searching for one thing, and you're going to miss out a whole bunch of other things that may be sitting there floating around in this glass, and this is one you don't want to miss. So,
100%, especially with something like this. It's going to be an overload of flavors. It's actually tough initially to pinpoint each thing. There's just a lot going on, so trying to narrow down one flavor at a time when you're looking for one, you'll never find what you're looking for, or at least it'll be really hard to.
I agree. Again, in the palate here for this one, so that almond, right, it's coming through. You're picking it out. I'm getting like a candied almond though, like sweet, which is, I don't know how often I find candied almonds at the store in general. But that's what it tastes like. It tastes like a honey almond. Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's that, what were we talking about before? An almond roca.
Almond roca.
Almond roca. I mean, I haven't had that in so long.
That's what this is. It's an almond roca. That's 100% what's going on here. I mean, there's no other descriptive term we need.
I mean, they should put the almond roca on the bottle.
Our hashtag Aberlour 13 almond roca.
Yeah.
We'll come up with a good one. This is fantastic, guys.
Even the finish.
Yeah.
It just kind of it hangs out kind of if you're eating almonds. Just the mouthfeel and the texture you kind of get at the very end.
It's great. In fact, this one's sitting there. So we talked about finish again, and this one's got a great finish. It's not overpowering. It's long. It's deep. It's sweet, and it's very inviting. So when we talk especially for finishes, and that's one of the things that I look for in a whiskey. That's one of the ways I'll rate a whiskey higher on the scale is how deep that finish is, because I really want that whiskey. I want it to coat my mouth. So you're going to get that when you have higher strength whiskeys in general. So the ABV is going to make it a little bit more oily. So your texture is going to sit there. It's going to help kind of coat the mouth a little better. So again, it's one of the reasons also why I too, as Donnie had said in the beginning here, really have an affinity for cask strength whiskeys. So
It's still lingering.
it's still there, yeah.
It's still there. This Aberlour 13, I think, with that almond roca, one of the things we like to do is actually add a couple drops of water. Sometimes it can open up a little bit more of the aromas. You can kind of get a little bit more on the palate. So I think we're going to add a couple drops and kind of see what this thing does.
Yeah, I agree. Here, take yours. You want one, two?
I'll go two drops.
Okay, and I'll do the same.
And just kind of let this thing blend together here.
So there's really no wrong way to drink whiskey. So don't let anyone tell you how you should drink it. And we talked about this before. It's up to your preference. It's how you want it. I think I also said this before. I don't add water generally to my whiskey. But I will negate that rule when we start talking about cask strength whiskey, because it's hot, and this will help open it up a little bit more. And I think you get other flavors that come through when you do.
See if we can get
anything else.
Even just on the nose.
So 2 drops is not that much for a 60, 120 proof Scotch.
Yeah, I feel like
doesn't for me. It doesn't do that much. But what do you think?
Haven't dug into the palate yet, but on the nose, I feel it does open up the fruits a little bit. They were already kind of fruit forward initially, but it feels lighter. I mean, it's kind of watered it down a little bit too, but when it's a little bit lighter, it's
maybe I get honey now out of this. Maybe less fruity.
You know how we get the honey roasted almond we got on the palate, get a little bit on the nose.
I think you're right. I think that's where that opens up. That's great. That's fantastic. So that's kind of the beauty of the water. And again, don't hunt for these things, right? Don't. You can try to find one thing if you want, if you really are interested in picking out that flavor, and that's great. But let it just kind of come natural to you. And flavors are tough because how often are you smelling honey, or how often are you smelling vanilla? It's usually you have to kind of associate a flavor to a memory or to an experience. So when you do this more frequently, it's easier to pull flavors out of the air. But for anyone who's kind of just starting, I just find something that's familiar to you.
You always bring back childhood memories or just flavors or things that you eat all the time. Like I said, there's not really any wrong answers. It's just what do you associate it with. And with this one, we watered it down. Like I said, 2 drops doesn't do too much. It really just opened up the almonds for me. It really pops. These are.
It's great. This is a fantastic. This is a great expression.
Let's get into the Aberlour Abanad.
Yes.
Kind of show you right here.
Of course.
All right. This is a slightly higher proof. I'm actually gonna add just a tiny bit more in here, but
I like it.
Yeah, no, Aberlour is just one of my favorites. So
I'm with you. In fact, I probably will afterwards.
This particular expression is finished in a Oloroso sherry cask. It's non-age stated, which is funny to me. How in the past, if I saw NAS anywhere, I'd just associate it with the rapper Nas. And now I see NAS, and I'm older now, so I just think non-age stated.
That's the whiskey talking. That's where you get into that world. You're like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I get it. So Abnod, and I hope I'm pronouncing it accurately. All these Gaelic words for me. Aberlour loves to use them. I'm not Scottish at all, so hopefully I'm not messing it up. But it does mean the original. So this is like their take on how they would have made their whiskey, 100 years ago. So this is kind of where they this is their expression where they would have served it cask strength. I think back then, obviously, aging whiskey was a little different than it is now, because that whole age statement proves that we're imparting flavor from the wood into the whiskey. So you get that here, obviously, because it's been aged at least 3 years in Scotland. We know that's going to be probably higher for this one, just because again we've had this one before. This is a great expression from Aberlour. But for me, one thing that we didn't discuss is we're looking at a Speyside distillery. This is my flavor profile, so I can tell you right now, if any scotches that we drink whenever we do any kind of tasting or profile tasting is I tend to lean towards the Speyside. It's just what I like the best, and everyone's different. So I'm going to try to be unbiased here, but it's kind of hard when it just tastes so good.
When you know what you like, it's kind of easier to get introduced to it. This one's 61.5%. So like I said, just a little bit higher. This one is readily available in most of your liquor stores. In the $90, $100 range,
about
somewhere
that.
along those lines.
Depends on where you go.
So you should be able to find this one more accessible than.
And you're talking double, right? Double capacity here, so 750 ml, 375. There's clearly, a differential there.
Yeah.
But cheers, sir.
Cheers.
So on the nose on this one for sure. Again, this is contrary to belief here with most cask strength whiskeys, it's not hot on the nose.
Yeah.
It's very smooth. It's very inviting.
I don't get as much sherry on this
No.
one as I do the 13.
There's not as much fruity. I actually get citrus on the nose here. I get orange. I get the orange that we got on this later in the palate.
Yeah.
Up front on the nose for this one.
Maybe as it opens up, it'll be more prevalent.
Yeah, I mean, so listen, Oloroso sherry casks, you're going to get that Spanish oak will impart a ton of fruited flavor to the whiskey, and you get kind of dried fruit, dark fruits. You don't always get the fresh stuff like apricot and peach, and you get that generally from American wood, but you're still going to get some of it. So when you talk fruit, if you can say fruit, define the fruit a little bit more. Not that it's going to make any difference, but it'll help you to pick those flavors out.
Yeah.
So for this one, again. I mean, I'm getting there's for sure dried fruit in here, dark fruit, not cherry. So again, this one had cherry. This one, the 13-year had cherry. It had almonds and orange on the palate. This one I get orange up front, and maybe plum. Maybe that's a tough one.
Yeah, with
What do you
this
get?
one,
I'm getting more wood too. Actually,
I was gonna say I'm really curious on the age statement on this because I am getting more. Just wood notes. Like I said, it's not overbearing like an oak like you get from a bourbon or anything like that.
No.
But it's just like a sweet.
maybe a little leather almost too. Like strap leather. It's got a great nose to it. And again, we're talking. It's very inviting because this is a cask strength whiskey, and it's not hot at all on the nose.
No, you can get all the way in here.
And I've got plenty of cask strength scotches that'll are completely on the opposite end of that have great flavor. But are real hot on the nose.
Yeah, and these are two also odd that a lot of scotches, regardless of if there's usually a little bit of peat, a little bit of smoke that you can kind of gather. I'm really not getting too much of that from either of these expressions.
Yeah, I don't think I'm pretty sure Aberlour doesn't peat any of their whiskeys, and if they do, it'd probably be a special expression. Generally speaking, obviously, you have like a Lafroig or a Lagavulin or Ardbeg. These distilleries that are heavily peated whiskeys or Bruichladdich. But they, obviously it's embedded in the culture and the history of Scotland to make their whiskey, but with using peat as a fuel source. Mm-hmm. But just because a distillery goes away from it doesn't necessarily mean it's not still that in that that like range of this. There are scotches like this because they're still imparted. Macallan's a great example. They have a smokiness to their whiskeys, but they're generally an unpeated Scotch too. So. I don't get smoke though. I get wood here, but it's really it's fresh. I don't get like that burnt campfire wood. I'm getting like fresh oak.
As it sits too, that plum note that you were talking about. It's like when you just bite into a plum.
Yeah, right away.
That first bite.
You know what? Also, maybe raisins. I'm getting something that's a little bit more deep and bitter. And so for me, kind of raisins get that bitterness in there. This specific whiskey from Aberlour, considering it's one of their cask strength expressions, God, it's got such an inviting nose. I think we've used that word, right? Inviting. It's like come taste me. That's kind of what I get. So should we cheers?
Yeah, we cheers the nose. So cheers the taste here.
The palate here. All right, let's go. Again, same thing that this one gave. It's got a good finish. Yeah.
This is really dry up front, though.
It is dry up front.
Really dry up front.
So much more different than this one.
It sucked all the moisture out of my mouth.
Yeah. You get that cotton mouth feeling afterwards. But, so it's funny because just because it's a dry finish it can still be a long finish, which is what I'm getting here.
Yeah.
So this one is very, very sweet and long. This one is very dry and long. They are polar opposites, which is hilarious because both sherry casks, well, finished and sherried, done 13 years in sherried.
Yeah.
So going to be why. Wow. Though this one has, I get all the same characteristics in the flavor profiles in the palate. What about you from the nose? They're all pretty much carried over.
This one is actually kind of weird to me. This is one of the first ones I've had, and I know I've had this one before, but I'm just trying to recall where I'm getting some light and dark fruits on the palate, and I don't know how that's possible. But let me go in for a second one.
No, it could be there. Well, you got to realize, Donny, it's finished in Oloroso sherry, so it's probably done in. I don't know if they put it on their statement, but it's probably done in a American oak. Yeah. So if you do get the American oak, you're going to get.
Still get, like I said, the. Mm-hmm. More the raisins over the plum on the taste.
Yeah, 100%. But it's really light though. Yeah. I mean, it's not heavy in the. Man, that's good.
I don't know what light fruits to associate it with.
Wow. I always when a lot of these times I'll start picking out things like peaches or apricots or or apples maybe. But I'm not getting really. It's not.
Dried apricots is always a go-to for me. It's one of my childhood favorite snacks, so that always jumps out to me. I'm not getting that on this one in particular.
Well, you said it. That was a great explanation. It's a childhood favorite.
Yeah.
Like that's where you can draw that line, I'm not getting that on this at all, though.
Yeah, maybe like one of those Granny apples.
I don't get the Granny Smith. That's my favorite. So I don't know if I'm getting that out of here. There's no sour. I'm not getting any sour on this, so there's no, you're not getting any of that barley, that actual wheated flavor from it. But I also don't get any oak or any wood on the palate. I only get it on the nose. Yeah. So this is, I think, one of those ones too where I would say let's open it up a little bit.
Yeah.
If you want to.
You get the texture of the wood though. Like you don't get the taste of the wood, but a lot of times for me, if it's something that's aged for a while, you get that dryness to it because it's so pulled so much out of the barrels.
Sure.
Aging, it gives it a little dryness to it, but. Yeah, it doesn't taste that way.
No, and I think for this one specifically, they don't have an age statement on it, and it's totally fine. It's very common in the world of whiskey to not have an age statement for scotches, but we know clearly that Aberlour is aging these things for a significant amount of time. Yeah. They're not. It's not a young scotch. It doesn't smell young. It doesn't taste young. There's some richness here.
So weird. We put the water in there, and I brought it up to my nose. I got a little punch of elephant.
Yeah,
which is, I don't.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers to that.
Man. I was like, I got it right away. I think for me, the palate. Now that it's simple, I'm not getting much more than what I got on the nose, and that's about it. It's really good. It's great. It's got a deep enough flavor for a non-age statement whiskey at a cask strength from Aberlour. What do you think?
Yeah, and while I really, really enjoy this one of the things I love about kind of comparing expressions is comparing these one-on-one. Big time appreciation for this 13. I feel like there's just different layers of flavor, especially when you nose it at cask strength, taste it, add water. It actually changes all across the board and just open things up, and you're getting a lot of layers, a lot of flavors. With this one, while it's amazing, I do really, really enjoy it when you're comparing them side by side. That 13. I feel like if you're an Aberlour fan,
it's the winner.
This has to be in the collection, and it's kind of unique too. There's something fun to being a whiskey enthusiast, grabbing some bottles, hunting for bottles, trying to find things that aren't readily available. So there is something to that we enjoy, and that 13 I think is going to be the ticket. Yeah,
it's fun to do comparisons side by side, especially when you're getting similar whiskeys together. Even if it's not from the same distillery. Mm-hmm. Again, I think there's a whiskey for everyone for every day. And what I mean by that is I think there's the time and place for a specific flavor profile for a type. We don't knock anyone or any specific expressions unless you just really don't like it, and that's up to your flavor profile because whiskey tasting is subjective. You're gonna like specific things based on your tastes. But for this. For these two, for sure, this 13 is in a different league. It's just it's simple as that. It's just it's different league. There's so much going on here that in fact, I think the next time I pour this, I feel like I'll probably pull new flavors out of it. Yeah. where I've had this Abenade. This one sits here in my in my bar, and it's I've got a bottle or two always because it's one of my go-tos. It's a great Friday night, cast strength pour without water. If you want it on ice, fantastic. But this one hands down is the winner. I mean, it really is.
And you brought up neck pour as well. Like that's one thing I would find interesting. Kind of doing a couple bottles, maybe even a few bottles, and doing blind tastings on the neck versus the body to the base pour once the oxygenation really hits, to see if we pick up different notes. That would be a fun one later.
That'd be cool.
Let us know if that's something you're interested in. I know that's something that definitely interests me.
Yeah, let us know too if you have any ideas on specific distilleries or expressions you want us to try. I mean, I have a pretty big selection of whiskey, so we can do just about anything. We also, continue to buy more. I will say, as we've been sitting here talking, this has opened up a little bit more, and I get a little peanut nutty on the nose, ever so slightly, a little earthy. But it's not heavy. It's not overpowering. It's just that's what happens when it opens up. And we obviously did open this up with a little bit of water.
Yeah.
So you're going to have some differences in that context too. But I know Donnie. So though you like the Abenade,
my pick hands down, Aberlour 13.
13. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I don't want to say no competition, but that is just an amazing bottle. I'm really hoping that does here in the near future. Because, if
it becomes part of their normal lineup, I'll be happy.
Absolutely.
So, and then we can open that 21 eventually, wherever it is.
Somewhere. Yeah, I mean, it could be right there.
Oh. Thanks, Donnie. I appreciate it. Oh, man, this is good. I feel like I want to pour another 13, but, maybe we should not.
Yeah, we'll probably do that off camera, but
yeah.
we may do that.
Cheers to you. Cheers to you.
And from the Dram Bell Society, may you enjoy a dram 1 grain at a time.
So we're down here pretty low. So I think I had a little bit more of that. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Wow,
It's good.
actually, that's really good. It's good.